Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. If you've never been an Audible customer and want to see what they offer, just go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title for free and start listening. It's that easy. Why Audible? Audible content includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, and entertainers. And with this free 30-day trial, you'll have your pick of it all. You can hear books of all genres narrated by Jim Dale, Stephen Fry, Will Patton, Alex Hyde White, Jeff Brick, Neil Shaw, William Demerit, and even a few by me, George Sirois. So go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and start your own 30-day journey with Audible today.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of the award-winning podcast Entrepreneurs on Fire, and you're listening to the Excelsior Journeys with George Sirois. Prepare to ignite.
Is there a burning desire within to share your creativity with the rest of the world? Do you insist on pursuing your passion by any means necessary? Then you are on an Excelsior journey, and you are not alone. Welcome back to Excelsior Journeys. My name is George Sirois. Thank you so much for being here on this great fourth week of January. This is the last part of our Resolutions Month mini-series. I hope you've enjoyed hearing from Pastor Joe Dobbins from Twin Rivers Worship Center. I hope you enjoyed listening to Brandy Stewart, and I hope you enjoyed Judy Fox. So it's been a really, really great little mini-series that I hope will help all of you in some way get inspired, get reconnected with yourself, get your work out there, get yourself pumped to hopefully, losing that weight, because we all know that's a big part of resolutions, of everyone's New Year's resolutions. But I am really looking forward to this particular episode, because one of the things that I have always been plagued with in terms of resolutions, things that I always need to keep an eye out for, is I tend to get in my own way of my own success. And also kind of realizing what I am here to do. Now, several years ago, I took part, I've mentioned this before in previous shows, I took part in the like-for-like frenzy that was going on Facebook around like 2012, 2013 or so. It was pretty common for a lot of authors to basically like each other's pages, to support each other, to give each other that sort of attaboy. In some cases, other people would kind of say like, okay, I've liked your page, now buy my book. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. But one author in particular really struck me as somebody that I believed that I needed to keep an eye on in the future. And this is an author named Natalie Bushnell. And once I took a look at her profile, at her author page, and I was reading more about her, I was very fascinated by what I was reading. It seemed like this person was very much in tune with her place in the universe and wanted to make sure that everyone else felt the same way. And so that was somebody that I'm not sure if I did the initial friend request or if she did to me. All I know is that we became Facebook friends and were able to communicate very briefly with each other throughout the years since then. And earlier last year, that's when we started talking a little bit more, because I started seeing an increase in her posts that was going on about a company that she was looking to start up called Soulisious, which was dedicated completely into unlocking the human potential that we all have within ourselves, that we all, for some reason, keep bottled up. And she is all about letting that free, letting that sort of potential free and completely let it envelop you and put you on the path to where you are supposed to go. And that really fascinated me. And this was during the time that I was gearing up to get my podcast up and running. So I knew that at some point I needed to have her on as a guest because she represents exactly what Excelsior Journeys is all about, because she is on a journey herself to basically be this guiding force for other people. And by doing that, she is building up a name for herself as well, just as she's helping everyone else build up their names. And so that was somebody that I definitely needed to have on this show. And now I got her. So it's my pleasure to introduce to all of you, Natalie Bushnell. Natalie, how are you?
I'm good. George, that was so sweet. It was beautiful to see myself through your eyes. Thank you.
That's how you played a part. It was one of those things that I just knew. The more I got to know you, the more I felt like, okay, I need to keep this person in my life. And I'm so glad that I did, because now you're here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for seeing me and seeing yourself and showing up and asking and letting me be here for you.
Well, it's one of those things where you just got to take a chance and see what happens. Because I had a feeling that if I extended this invitation, I just knew that you would take it. And I didn't know how enthusiastically you would take it, and so that was a really good bonus there. So before we go back to the beginning with your journey, tell us a little bit about Soulisious itself, because that was what really got me into believing that you needed to be a guest on this show. So tell us a little bit about Soulisious.
So Soulisious really is about turning humans into gods. It's turning them into soul food and eye candy, because our society, a lot of times, the spiritual aspect, we have a lot of really good-hearted people that give, but they're not giving to themselves and they're not taking care of themselves. And so they become soul food, and they're very yummy to hang out with and love on and things like that. But you see them not charging their worth. You see them not having any abundance around them. You see them not having, these model bodies. And on the opposite spectrum is your eye candy, right? And we kind of think it's narcissistic to always take care of yourself, always have money, be fake looking, all those different things, right? Mm-hmm. Well, a couple of years ago, I was so much soul food. I was giving. I spent years and years and years serving people and not charging anything. I was making like $33 an hour for teaching the same kind of stuff that Tony Robbins charges millions of dollars for.
Wow.
And I didn't know my worth. And I ended up in a situation where I was separated from my husband. He was my eye candy. He was Hercules. He was like, I don't know if you've seen my husband, but he's like super physically fit, right?
I have seen him, yes. And I've been, dude, awesome. Kudos.
Yeah, he was my bipolar opposite, where I was so integrated in the spiritual world and the conscious world. He was so integrated in the physical world. And at that time, we didn't see each other's value. And so we had separated and created this really weird conundrum. And I got upset with the universe one day, because I had my husband on one side, who was my soul eye candy. And I had two friends over there, and they were like Barbie dolls, like perfect. Yeah. And then on this other side, I had my soul yummy family. And it was like this gay guy with AIDS that I absolutely was in love with. And then these two women that were my best friends, and they were my soul yummy. And I sat down on the grass one day, and I was mad at the universe and like, why have I created this situation? And it was trying to show me that I valued soul food more than I valued eye candy. But as I sat there, it was the first time that I had really grounded, because I had become addicted to, after my daughter's death, I had become addicted to spirituality and serving others to get away from my own pain. And it was the weirdest thing, because it was like it brought me back home. And I could feel everything. I could feel the grass. I could feel the trees. I could feel the air. And I looked down, and there's this sage. And to me, sage is considered so yum, because it's when I go to sweat lodges, you'll sniff sage so you don't die, because it gets so hot in the sweat lodges. And it just smells so delicious to me. So that would be my soul yum. But coming out of the sage were these two daffodils. And daffodils are those beautiful yellow, fake-looking flowers. They're like too good to be true.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And if you actually look up the word daffodil, did you know it's called a narcissist?
Really?
Yeah. And so I thought my husband and all these people that were fake and had money and had cards and all they cared about with themselves were just complete narcissists. But I didn't realize at the time I was being narcissistic to myself. I was being selfless versus self-loving. I wasn't paying myself. I wasn't valuing myself. I wasn't putting myself first or working out or taking care of my body or anything. I was putting everybody else's needs before my own. And as I looked down and I saw these two things together, I realized, because I was raised as a polygamist, and we'll go into that story in a little bit, I had created a belief. You've heard the saying, I'm sure it says, don't be eye candy, be soul food. Have you heard that?
I'm sure I have. Like there's a lot of different things that
It's a famous quote out there, and maybe it doesn't mean anything to most people, but it meant a lot to me. Because I was raised as a polygamist. If you put a lot of attention into your body, you were shamed. If you put a lot of attention, I was like called a whore for having nails one day, and like I had to wear clothes that were down to my ankles and up to, down to my wrists, and like I had to wear long underwear and 2 pairs of pantyhose to cover them up. So I was like told, to have any kind of beauty was shameful. And so don't be eye candy, be soul food became this belief I inserted into myself. But I realized in that moment, I had been shaming my darkness. I had been shaming my desire to be beautiful and to take care of myself and to have beautiful things around me. Here I had been giving all for like 14 years. I've been giving everything, but I had nothing to show for it because I never gave anything to myself. And so that's how Soulisious was created, because in that moment I realized, excuse my French, fuck that, be both. Why not have it all? Why not be beautiful on the outside and beautiful on the inside? Why not have money? If you're going to have to be in this world, why not treat it like a vacation? Why not have it become heaven on earth? And I've actually I've been able to, because of my spiritual gifts, I have access to the higher realms and the higher dimensions. They celebrate constantly. It's like an orgasmic rite of joy constantly. And there's so many parties and there's so much glitter and there's so much beauty up there. Why don't we bring some of that and put it here? And if we did that, we wouldn't be trying to get out of this reality so much.
Yeah, just kind of like enhancing the one that we're in instead of trying to escape to one that doesn't do anything for anyone. Because if you're just escaping into an alternate reality, you're the only one who's doing that. No one else is going with you. And so if you're able to enhance the reality around you, then all of a sudden you're enhancing it for everyone as well. You're not just doing it for yourself.
Exactly. I'd spent my whole life looking at the stars instead of looking into my children's eyes and my husband's eyes and realizing the stars were already around me.
Wow. That's beautiful. Yeah.
And starting to create my heaven right here. But for me to do that and for my husband to value me, he needed to see that I was on earth, that I could physically be here, be present, and start allowing people to pay me so we could actually have a heaven here.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't having to carry all the financial burdens.
It's amazing that you're saying this right now, because I had just recently listened to, since you were talking about Tony Robbins, I've gone back into his podcast library, and I just recently came across an episode where a gentleman was there basically considering himself a fraud because of he believed that the work that he was doing was of no value to other people. Even though what he was doing, because he was a personal trainer and somebody who dropped like over 100 pounds, he still always saw himself as the before picture. He never saw himself as the after picture. He never saw himself as the one that people could aspire to be. He just saw himself as the one who's just kind of starting off on his own weight loss journey at the same time. And so what Tony basically told him, since he basically just asked him, like what he charges for his service. And the guy was charging, I think he said like $49 a month, while other people doing the same business were charging $150 to $180 per month. And so he basically just kind of realized that, that what he was doing was he was cutting himself short. It was doing exactly what you were doing,
Exactly.
by charging those smaller prices. And it's one of those things. And Tony was saying, like, I understand it. Like, I understand the want to do that because you want it. You want everyone to have it. But at the same time, by charging that low of a price, you're not giving yourself the value that you deserve. And because by cutting it, by giving such a low number, by giving such a low amount for people to pay, you're not allowing yourself to live your own mission. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Money in the hands of good people can do great things.
yeah,
And that is what Soulisious is about. Is I created this group, I've created a movement of emotional healing retreats where we go in and heal, because healers need healing. People
yeah,
that are on these kind of journeys, they need healing, but you shouldn't be healing your whole life. People are not healers. They're creators that are stuck in trauma.
hmm,
And if we can go in and heal all of their wounds and their child wounds, then they can start creating and playing. But a lot of people believe unless you have money, you don't have worth. Unless I'm making money, what I do doesn't have value. Did you know that?
there's so many people that think that. I mean, I definitely have, been guilty of feeling that same way, with everything that I'm doing. It's a matter of just trying to find that happy medium with a price that's not cheap but offers so much value.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree.
Yeah,
But here's the thing: value is perspective. Okay,
yeah,
money is
yeah.
perspective. So I was at this thing. The universe blesses us in many ways too. By the way, this entire year is about learning to receive. Creator has come to me. He's called me his divine lover, and now he has been trying to spoil me. But I was in resistance to receiving.
Mm.
And so this whole year is about learning about this. But as I've been receiving, I've received over $200,000 in the last few months of just gifts from all around the world.
Wow.
My husband's been on trips. I've been on trips. We've been to Costa Rica. We've just been doing and getting free stuff everywhere we turn. But one of those things that I was invited to was a conference where people paid $120,000 to $160,000 to coach with this coach.
Oh my.
And
Wow.
he was speaking to us and he talked to us a lot about things. And he actually got off stage and he said something. He says, selling spirituality is so much harder or easier than selling money. And I just started bawling because I believed selling spirituality was so much harder because I thought people didn't value it because they thought it didn't bring them money.
Yeah.
And I realized in that moment that I had been seeing it wrong. I didn't see my value. I didn't see my worth. But as I started busting through, I started noticing things. For instance, I saw this video of this man who put dollar bills all over his body. And I actually heard you say this earlier before we got in here, and so this is why I want to tell this story.
Yeah.
Is he put dollar bills all over his body, and he says, if you need it, come get some. Well, this woman walks up, and she's got nails, she's got shoes, she's obviously wealthy. She starts taking money off his coat, and she takes $40 off. He's like,
wow.
do you really need this money? And she's like, yeah, I'm getting my nails done. And he's like, okay, whatever. And he puts new money on his coat, and this bum walks up, and he takes $2. And the guy's like, dude, do you want some more? He's like, no, I just need to eat today. Most really big-hearted people only take what they need. They're never taking what they want. They don't even know what they want. They're in survival mode. And when we were talking earlier about what you're doing, you're like, well, if I can do this and this and this, it will cover what I need.
Yeah.
But you, George, still need to think bigger. What do you want? Because the universe loves you. It wants to spoil you. But right now, you're only taking what you need.
That's true. That is very
You're
true.
that bum who's only asking for his $2.
Mm.
So at the end of this podcast, I'd like to offer an opportunity for your viewers. But the reason why I'm offering this opportunity to them is because a lot of reason why I created Soulisious is to funnel money to good people. And so I offer a really good incentive for people that listen to your show. When they come on, they actually are able to help support you in your project so that you can start making what you want versus what you need.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing. I welcome that, and I am very appreciative, for that. So that's something that that I just wow. Just, I am just very appreciative. So thank you, for thinking of me like that. So, so so that I can actually kind of take a moment to catch my breath a little bit. Let's go back to the beginning of your journey. So what was, as I like to say in the show, what was that lightning bolt moment for you where you saw someone or experienced something and just reached out to the sky, to the heavens, to something that was inspiring you and just say, that's what I want to do. That is the path that I want to not only take for myself, but that's a path that I want to help others take for themselves. What was that like for you?
So about 15 years ago, I was actually in a polygamous cult. I had 5 moms and 45 brothers and sisters. Well, actually, it wasn't 45. I think it was like 35. I lost track. Wow. But I absolutely loved the culture. It was very beautiful. I loved my family. I loved my siblings. And at the age of 18, I turned myself in. Even though I was in love with someone else, it was based on the culture that you turn yourself in and you get placed somewhere. Mm-hmm. And the person I was placed with, I knew I needed to marry. I had a revelation that I needed to marry. So I did it of my own free will, but at the same time, there's a lot of pressure, right? Mm-hmm. But he was an older man, and older meaning 33, but I was like 18, so that's older for me, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's old. Yeah.
We were obviously on different wavelengths. I had a lot of immaturity issues at that point, but I was also very sweet and kind. And I was very codependent. I took everything personal. I was like a typical 18-year-old, and I could not understand for the life of me why my sister wife didn't like me. Like, I knew she loved me, but once I got pregnant, obviously that triggered her, right? And so it ended up becoming very suppressive. Like, she didn't want him with me, so I went like 2-3 years without sex. She became very manipulative. I was always in trouble. I was very controlled. My own daughter had to call me Natalie. She wasn't allowed to call me mom. I turned into kind of like a slave. Like, I would wake up on Saturday morning and have so many jobs that by 11 o'clock at night, I was bawling. Like, I was so exhausted. I'd be just crying every night. I had to get up at 5 a.m. just to do all my cleaning before I went to work. And so it became and I had nobody to connect to, because it was shameful to go back to your family and talk, because, you weren't supposed to talk about your family's business, and I didn't really have any friends. And so it became very isolating for me. They had a previous wife who had become also so depressed that she ended up dying in a car accident, and she would come and like haunt me at night. And that's back when I realized I had spiritual abilities to talk to the dead. And I would it was trippy, the things that would happen to me. Like, I'd be sleeping, and then all of a sudden this little boy would like be next to my bed, and he's like, I have something to tell you. And then my room would just get really dark and heavy. Have you ever been haunted before?
Thankfully, no. Not yet, at least. I've yet to have that sort of experience.
Well, yeah. Lucky you. But so it was happening to me all nonstop, and these beings would come and they would communicate with me and tell me about how Helen died and why she died. And anyways, it just became very suppressive, and I ended up with fibromyalgia, anxiety so bad I couldn't function a lot, and bipolarism, which are all very similar. People that are awakening, they usually end up with one or all 3 of those symptoms. Did you know that?
I did not know that, no.
Because they are so empathic, they can feel other people's emotions. They're very sensitive. They also become very toxin. They're very sensitive to foods, and so they'll create, anytime they're eating like junk food or sugars or anything like that, it will store in their tissues and give them fibromyalgia. And so anybody who's on a conscious or is awakening to become a shaman or healer, they'll usually end up with those 3 symptoms. And so I had all 3 very bad. I had huge cysts on my wrists. Or they were like golf balls on both of my wrists. Yeah. And I ended up committing suicide. I was so done. I overdosed on sleeping pills, and I fell asleep in the closet. And my husband came and found me, but because I was so molested and raped as a child earlier, I often pretended I was asleep anytime he came around. And so he just thought I was pretending and just left me there and didn't realize I was actually dying. And when I died, it was actually really beautiful. But all of a sudden, this man is next to me, and it was obviously Creator or one of my guardian angels. And I feel him put his hands on my chest and defibrillate me back to life. Is it called a defibrillator?
Defibrillator. Yeah, defibrillator. Yeah.
So he put his hands, and this electricity came out of his hands and shot into me and jerked me back to life. And he did this every 3 minutes, all night long. And when I woke up the next morning, I was actually kind of pissed I was still alive, because it was like really rude. I would like go into peace and then come back into pain, and then go into peace and then come back into pain, and then go into peace and then come back into pain. Yeah. So the next day I go to work and I come home and I'm in a bad mood because I'm still alive. And my sister wife's like, I need you to go out and weed the garden. And it's like pouring rain, Right. And I'm like, I look at her like, are you freaking kidding me? Yeah. And she's like, yes, I need you to go out and weed the garden before dinner. And she was just really like rude that way. And I just gotten off work and I'm having a bad day because I'm not dead. And I'm like, fine, whatever. And I go outside and I'm weeding this garden. And I end up having a mini heart attack, and I fall down into the garden because I had damaged my heart the night before. And I'm looking up at the sky and rain is pouring on me. It's like one of those enchanting movie moments. And I just tell God, I says, I'm done. I says, you show me a better way or take me home. And the craziest thing happened. This lightning bolt shot through the sky, and it was as if he heard me, and it kind of freaked me out. I was like, whoa. And the next day I go to work and I'm doing my manic and depressive thing. So I'm bawling in the bathroom, and it's a public restroom in a public business. And I have so little self-worth and so little self-value that when I'm actually having a mental breakdown, I think I have to clean the bathroom floor with a toothbrush. And so I'm in this public restroom cleaning the door. It's like somebody walking into McDonald's, I guess, walking to McDonald's and cleaning the tile with a toothbrush. Can you imagine that?
That's
how little self-worth I had. Wow. And I'm cleaning this floor, and I look into the back of the bathroom cupboard, and there's this book. And it's got a little bit of water damage, and it's crinkled, but I just felt like it's energy. And I picked it up, and it's called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. It's a book I recommend to anyone starting their spiritual journey. I've given so many copies of that book out. Everybody I've ever met who gives that book, that's read that book, gives that book out as gifts. It is one of the most influential books in this world. Louise Hay is now dead. I actually channeled her on my YouTube page, but she is an amazing woman, and that book saved my life. I read it from beginning to end that very same day, and I stopped crying for the first time in like months. And so I put the book, because it wasn't mine and I had such high integrity, that I put the book back in the cupboard where it belonged, because it didn't belong to me. And I went home, and I was the very last person to leave the office that day. And the next morning I woke up, and I felt good. Like, it was the first time I was like, wow, I feel like myself again. And I went into the work, and I was the very first person there. I was kind of a workaholic, because it meant I could leave the house. And I walked in, and that book is set perfectly on my desk. And I was like, holy crap. Like, I was a little freaked out. It was like in a Ouija board. You heard of them before? You use them, you can't get rid of them. Right. So I was a little freaked out. And then all of a sudden, this voice said to me, as loud as me talking to you, it said, Natalie, that is your book. That is your ticket out of here. Let me bless you. And I was like, okay, because I couldn't deny it. And so I picked that book up, and in that back of the book, they have all of these affirmations. Basically, any health issues you have or mental issues you have, there's an affirmation in the back of the book. For instance, I don't know, this one is for the colon, because at that time I had people worked on me, said I had a lot of constipation issues and stuff. I don't anymore, but because I healed it with this affirmation. The affirmation is, I release that which I no longer need. I let go of the past. I'm free. And I call that one my pooper affirmation, because anybody's constipated, or if I'm ever constipated ever, which I'm not anymore, but you will poo within 30 seconds once you start saying that. Like, it just releases everything. And so I had this whole list of affirmations that I would say all day long, from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, I would just repeat these affirmations. And if I stopped for a moment, I would just break down in tears. It was like how I managed myself. And like just saying, one of them is, I love and approve of myself. I am at peace and calm as well. Every time I said that, I bawled and bawled. And because I didn't believe it, but the more and more I said it, the more and more I started believing it, and I stopped crying. And I noticed that things started changing in my reality. For starters, my friend would always get mad at me. She's like, Natalie, that door was locked. How did you open it? And I started realizing I was able to open locked doors. Mm-hmm. And the next thing that started happening was my sister wife wouldn't give me any gas money. And I was like, fine, the car breaks down. And I stopped caring what other people thought or said to me. And I just drove that car around for 2 weeks on empty. And every time it clunked out, it would fill back up and I would continue to drive. Mm-hmm. The universe was filling my gas tank. And I remember one day I came home and my husband started screaming, there's not 1 ounce of drop of gas in this car, Natalie. It won't even start. And he's just yelling. And I just said, hand me the keys. And it started right up for me. And these miracles started happening everywhere I turned. My business ended up paying me $25,000 accidentally. I gave them back the money, and they thanked me for the mistake. And they told me they're surprised that I was so honest because they wouldn't even known it was missing. Mm. Think about that for a second. Yeah. The universe was trying to bless me so much that it actually paid me $25,000 from a business that wouldn't have noticed. But I gave it back, of course.
Of course.
Then I had worked at Walmart when I was 17, and they found me after all those years and tracked me down and gave me the money in my 401k and a check. And that was actually the money I used to escape. But before I tell you that story, you need to know how much confidence I had in that time in my life. I went from being this whiny little child that couldn't stop crying to having so much confidence and healing my fibromyalgia and healing my depression and healing everything, healing my anxiety, and which I have other tools for people too, because it wasn't just this. I started doing other things. Everything I needed was given to me at that time and to heal myself. And I completely transformed my entire life. But what happened was the business I was in started laying people off. Mm. And I was the very first person to stand up, walk up to my boss and say, lay me off first. Can you imagine having that kind of confidence?
Wow.
And she started bawling and she said, Natalie, you're my favorite employee. Are you sure? And I said, yes. I said, unlike the rest of these people, I will find a new job. Mm. And I smiled at her and I hugged her and I clocked myself out. And I walked over to another building. I opened it up to go talk to a friend. This woman stands up and said, Natalie, I dreamed of you last night. I'm supposed to hire you. Whew. That's crazy.
That's amazing, just how in touch with everything around you that you've been able to get in that period of time. Like that's really something. That's really amazing.
That wasn't the end. So I started working for this woman. And she started this business. I was her first and only employee. Mm-hmm. And when I was doing cold calls for her, I ended up having a lot of men that would fall in love with my voice and want to talk to me. And so they would keep calling in. And I ended up attracting a really dangerous situation where I was home one night with my kids. And my ex-husband and my sister wife had left for the night, and I'm cleaning and I have all the blinds down because I was a cleanaholic. Mm-hmm. And I had all the blinds down. It was pitch black outside, and all of a sudden I hear one of the little girls screaming, Aunt Natalie, Aunt Natalie, and she's screaming around the house. And I go to open the door because the boys would always lock her out. And I go to step outside, and suddenly I am pushed back, and I'm pushed back so hard I break the back of the washer. Oof. And this voice says to me, as loud, if not louder, like it was threatening me. It says, do not walk out that door. That is not Sabrina screaming for you. And I was like, okay. And in this town, we didn't lock our doors or anything. Right. And I look out and it's pitch black, and he lifts up my arm and slams the door for me. And I'm like, okay, that's freaky. And so I go marching upstairs because I'm still not scared because I'm really just a little bit in shock. But I'm more concerned about Sabrina. And I go marching upstairs about to get mad at the boys because I thought they had locked her out. And suddenly I look over and she's right there. She wasn't outside. And so now we're all freaked out and we're saying our prayers. And I tell my husband and he tells me I'm crazy and it's a horse. And the next day I go to work. And I sit down at my desk, and again, I'm the only one that works there. And my phone instantly rings the moment I sit down. So this person was watching me. And I sit down, and I said, hello, and it says, hello. And I says, hi, who's this? And he says, my name's Steve. And I says, hey, Steve, how can I help you? And he says, I came to say goodbye to you last night, but I guess you didn't see me. And I said, excuse me? And he just starts laughing and hangs up. Well, my friend Susie walked to the door and I told her, I said, do you know Steve? And she was holding some papers, and as I told her my story, she dropped them. And she says, Natalie, I don't know why I turned the TV on last night, but I was watching America's Most Wanted, and there's a man who was literally stalking women, and it had been from the city of the people I've been co-calling that month, stalking women, watching them, recording the sounds of their kids screaming. So he must record Sabrina screaming at one point, and basically luring women out of their homes with those screams, and then raping them and chopping them up into little pieces.
Wow.
And so, yeah, now I'm freaking scared, right?
Yeah.
And so I reach out to my husband, and I'm like, this is happening. Again, he didn't believe me. He told me I was crazy, and he wouldn't even lock our door at night. Makes me feel super validated, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm at my office that night all alone again, and I'm talking to a client, and suddenly my outside door starts twisting back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And this person did not try to enter my office. And I knew at this point that they were trying to scare me. They were just trying to get me to be afraid. And so I called my friend Charlie, terrified. He comes and gets me, and they didn't hurt him. And so he takes me home, and I get home and nobody's there. And so I go up to my room, and all of a sudden this voice says, hide. And so I hide behind my door because that's about as clever as I was.
Right.
And suddenly my downstairs door opens, and this man with boots comes walking into my house, and I could hear his boots very heavily. And it walks up to my room, and it just stands there, and it just sighs. And it kind of looks in like it's looking for me, but it was weird because it was like I was also protected. Like it wasn't allowed to enter my room. And then it gets disappointed and it walks out and leaves. And I never looked at him or anything because obviously I'm scared, but I could hear him breathing.
Right.
And it leaves. Well, this continued for like 2 weeks, like just the one experience after another. And my mother is simultaneously being emailed by a man who says, your daughter is beautiful, and your daughter's beautiful and dances with roses. And he talks about how he hurt people back in 1969 and how reincarnation is real and how it would be to be able to kill the same person twice. And after he emails this to my mama goes down, and there's a picture of me on my mom's dresser in my sophomore year with this dress with my roses. And my mom had not seen that picture in years, and she said it was set perfectly on my dress. And my sister actually watched him put it there because he had come into her room first, looked at her, and my sister peeked around the corner and saw him go into my mom's room. And she was freaked out and jumped in her bed, but she later told me that she actually saw him, and it scared her to death, and she didn't know who it was.
Wow.
But at that same time, I started having these visions of being in this beautiful white dress and being on stage and seeing how I looked, and then also seeing this grass, and then seeing people scream and run, and then watching my friend be shot with black hair, and then I watched myself be stabbed to death. And these images just kept coming and coming and coming so vividly, and I was terrified, and I would wake up in the middle of night at the same time every night, and I would hear screams, and I would hear all of, just horrible things happening, and I would pace my house for hours waiting for the screams to stop. And then my husband said something to me one night. He said, wouldn't you rather die than be so afraid? And in that moment, I realized I had given my power away, and I stopped being afraid of anything. And because I stopped being afraid, I started searching, and I found out I was actually Sharon Tate in 1969.
Whoa.
It was the Charles Manson massacre.
Yeah.
And my ex-husband's name is Charles, and my sister wife and her sister look like the two women that murdered Sharon Tate in 1969.
Oh.
And my life changed and went downhill when I was 8 months pregnant. And that's when he stopped having sex with me or having anything to do with me, and I went through an emotional death. Everything coincided with Sharon Tate. And the guy that was emailing my mother was his alias name was Charles Manson. And he's the one that was emailing. Now, I don't believe it was Charles Manson that was emailing my mother. I think it was a copycat.
Yeah.
And I have proof of that, but we'll go into that probably on another thing. I think he was the Riverman, because the Riverman actually found me in Walmart at the age of 17, and he actually stalked me for a while.
Ooh.
And he's another serial killer.
Yeah.
But long story short, that was a pivotal time in my life because I stopped being afraid of anything. And it got to the point where I could walk outside and the wind be blowing. Yeah. And I said, don't touch me. I'm not afraid of you. And it didn't. Yeah. And I walked all the way to work, and it was blowing like Hades around me, including my boss. She ran over, her hair sticking straight out. And she's like, where's your hairspray? I was like, I don't have hairspray. She's like, well, where's your comb? I says, I don't have a comb. She says, well, where's your car? I said, I walked. She says, why do you look like that? Like you just got out of the shower. I says, because I told the wind not to touch me. And she says, don't talk. Because it freaked her out. She had been watching me do things that were not human. But it was because I had no more fear. I was no longer afraid of anything. That job put me in contact with my current husband. She put me on the phone with him. He was a closer for another business. I told him the day I heard his voice that I was supposed to marry him. I just knew it. The next day, I was transferred down to his work. He was not there. They tried to introduce me to another Jason, and I knew that wasn't him. And I said, that's not him. Right. I said, how do you know? I says, I know. The next day, I went down there again. I walked in, and I saw him, and I didn't even know his name. And he looked like a Greek god to me, and that's why my husband's Hercules. And him and I had never parted from that day. And my friend was so concerned because she took me to the park that night and tried to get me too drunk to talk out of it. But I told her I meant to marry him. And within 3 months, we were married. And the moment I left that community, that entire business dissolved. Creator loved me so much. He created an entire business to help me escape that culture.
That's amazing. Wow.
And that's how much he loves everyone. But most people don't know this. They've been programmed with lies. And they have belief systems and structures and traumas. And so what I do now is I help people heal all of their emotions and their minds or their mindset and all of that stuff so they can step into the gods they are meant to be. I've been through almost any trauma possible. Yeah. I've had a child die. I've been raped. I've been molested. I've been abused. I've had sex withheld. I've been cheated on. I've had everything happen to me. But my mission in life is to show people how to rise above it and show them that they attracted everything for a reason. Because, George, we're magicians. We said lock our ass up, chain us, throw us in the ocean, and we'll show you that we're going to break free. But the most humans have forgotten who they are. They've forgotten their power, and they're drowning, and they're scared, and they want out. So they're using everything in their life to escape their realities. But the way out is in. You have to get very present in your reality. You have to come very, very clear about why you created everything and take complete accountability. This world is a reflection of several things. Number one, your birth. I can go back and heal your entire life for you just doing your forgiveness work from everybody that was in your birth. Here you were this perfect child. They pulled you out of your mother. They took you away. They beat you to make you breathe. So now you feel like you need to be punished. They put you in an incubator and took you away from mom. So now you have a hard time creating connection with other people. Maybe something's wrong with you. Maybe you're not important. Maybe you're not enough. Maybe they don't love you. And you start creating these beliefs about why these people did this to you. Instead of seeing that they loved you and they were trying to keep you warm, you saw they must not like me. I must not be enough. And so you started to dim your light even from that moment.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. Because there's, yeah, it really is something. Like when you're able to kind of tap into that and just are able to come to grips with everything and just kind of look past everything that you've gone through, the fact that you're still standing, the fact that you're still there after all that alone should be your shield. Just be like, I've taken all of this and there's nothing that I can't handle.
Yes. In fact, humans are actually obsessed with that spiral. Did you know that? It's called the infinity loop. It's about how much pain can I handle? How much pleasure can I handle? And people don't actually know it, but they're putting themselves on this roller coaster. Have you ever noticed that you get really, really, really good with your partner and suddenly you guys will sabotage, you'll fight or disconnect or something, and then you'll go back down into the pain. And you'll just do this, or in your job, you'll do the same thing at work, or you'll do the same thing with your fitness. You'll feel really good about yourself for a few days, and then you'll pop a cookie in your mouth. And you'll go right back down into that pain. Well, what happens is we'll do really, really good, and then we'll attract somebody cheating on us or a baby dying or something like that puts us down to how much pain can you handle? How much pain can you handle before you traumatize? And that's what makes a God. How much pleasure can I receive? When you get into the higher dimensions, when I go into the higher dimensional frames, I orgasm out of every cell of my body at such high intensity that I have to beg to be brought down.
Wow.
It's so much pleasure that we're like, okay, stop. I can't anymore. And we will like shame us, yell at us, traumatize us, do anything. But it's so excruciating to fall from that higher dimension all the way down to here that what we'll do is we'll bury ourselves deeper than we need to go in some kind of trauma to keep ourselves stuck for a little bit so that when we come up a little bit, we're like, oh, we're a badass. Oh, that feels good.
Yeah.
So that we can handle being here because it's so different from where we're used to. But at the same time, we're not ready for an orgasm every 30 seconds.
Right.
We get exhausted.
Yeah.
And their orgasms, dude, they're like professional orgasm makers. They have names for the orgasms. Like it's like acid or marijuana or different. It's like they have a different hit with the orgasms. They've labeled them. This one is called the cosmosis, whatever, right? And it like explodes in every cell of your body. This one's called this. You feel like you're like going to like you're having an entire world birthed into you. Like I've had orgasms where entire worlds are birthed into me when I get into my God state.
Wow.
When I walk, like I am completely, like I go into a grocery store, I'm so connected to everything around me now because I'm so grounded that I literally am being fed organically. I'm a walking, talking vagina. The universe does nothing but feed me and bless me and infuse me with orgasmic energy. Like grocery stores are the hugest place because there's the fluctuation of the freezers and everything. It's all like orgasmic energy for me. And that is what becoming a God is all about.
Wow.
Letting the universe be your sugar daddy.
That I've never heard it like that. And that's poetry right there. Like that's so good. Wow. So with all of that, with that sort of connection that you have, that sort of energy that is coursing through you. So at some point you're going to, in your life, you're going to take that energy, you're going to tap tap that energy into someone else and basically just kind of open their doors and allow them to see the world in a whole new, wonderful light. What was that like for you when you were able to help your first person kind of break free?
So I've had so many clients over the years. I don't even remember my first one. Like I've done so many healings on so many people, but there's actually one I want to share with you that actually happened recent, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a conference and this woman gets up and she starts talking about how she's struggling at work because nobody believes in her and her bosses are putting her down and all these different things. That she called them the top management. And I'm sitting there listening to her story and listening to the victim inside of her. And I about lost my shit. I'm going to be honest, because my soul was screaming because she didn't realize that she had been doing this to herself the whole time. This world is a reflection of how you treat you. She had been putting herself down for years. She is the one that wasn't supporting herself. She was the one that wasn't believing in herself. She was the one that wasn't loving herself and being there and holding her own hand and saying, sweetheart, you can do this. I believe in you. And getting herself up and having confidence. See what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all too well. Because I just for a moment, you know, like I remember very vividly that during a time when I felt that I was just really down on myself, like especially like around sixth grade. That's when I felt like things were really kind of, you know, not right with me. I felt like, you know, I just couldn't do anything right. And I just felt so frustrated with myself. And the very next year was when we made the move to Richmond, Virginia. And that's when, you know, like, because normally I would get solid grades in school. But that year, everything just bottomed out. Had to take summer school for the first time. Wound up passing seventh grade literally by 1 point. And it was miserable. I was miserable. And finally, like, I was able to kind of scrape an existence out of, you know, for myself during that time. But yeah, I remember that very vividly. And it's hard for me to, you know, like, there are times when it just feels like you got to let go of that, you know, because you're not doing yourself any favors by constantly dwelling on those moments. So yeah, I definitely know what you mean when it comes to that sort of constantly being down on yourself kind of feeling. So yes. So I'm sorry to interrupt. Continue on.
No. I'm glad you input because I need to know that people understand this, that they're the ones that have been abusing themselves. They're the ones that cheating. When I was being cheated on, it was because I was playing small. Because I was lying to myself and thought I couldn't do it. I wasn't supporting myself. I was supporting everybody else's dreams, but I wasn't supporting myself. I didn't think I was worth the $5,000 that it was going to take to fix my body, which I just got the surgery done a couple days ago. But I was cheating me, not believing I was worth it. Okay. Yeah. And this is what humans do. And then they want to blame everybody else. But this world is just a reflection of how they've been treating themselves. And I can go in and show you your patterns and shift you so that you start loving yourself. And then the universe can show up and start loving you. And that's what I did to that girl that day. I walked over and I was like, whoa. And I tapped the top of her head and says, this is upper management, sweetheart. You're the one that's been mean to you. And I went into this healing in front of everyone. And this man walks up to me afterwards. And she was she just started crying. Like she realized it in that moment, what she had been doing to herself. And this man walked to me and says, what did you do to her? I says, what are you talking about? And he's like, that when you tapped her head, what did you do? And I was like, I just put some energy into her. He says, Natalie, I've never seen energy before. He says, I watched you take a golden ball and insert it into the top of her head. And gold, and I didn't tell him this, but I work with only gold energy. I don't do gold or dark or light because it creates too much contrast. When you try to be all light and good, you actually will attract evil because you've judged something. Everything is contrast. Creator is contrast. He is dark and he is light. He is masculine. He is feminine. He is chaos. He is order. He is heaven. He is hell. He talks to me so sweetly, he or she, and sings to me and makes love to me. But at the same time, he'll say, stop being a little bitch and let me love you. He calls me on my shit.
Yeah.
And that is why I use golden energy, because it's the merging of both. But I didn't tell this guy this. He literally saw it come out of my hand and go into this woman's head.
Wow. Wow.
So I've been healing people for years, but the
Mm-hmm.
fact that now other people can see my energy going into other people, now that's cool.
Now it's manifesting itself. Yeah, like that's
Yes, into
yeah.
a physical thing now.
Now the way that you describe the light and the dark, that you that's a sort of energy you want. That is, I hate to take it off on a tangent, but at the same time, like that is exactly what my character Excelsior deals with in his origins,
Very
because
cool.
he is Excelsior himself. Like in the second book, Ever Upward, we get to see like his very, 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 very beginning of the origin, which dates all the way back to the beginning of the universe, because he was one of the group of gods that were tasked with creating the universe and getting it off and running before joining the center of the universe once again. And this particular one manifested itself into a being that it called Excelsior. So, which means onward and upward to greater glory. So he wanted to create this jewel of a planet. And he spent so much time on it and was crafting every little bit of it that at the same time, though, he started to feel pride in his creation. And he was so taken aback by that feeling of pride, which is, as I say, is one of the 7 deadly sins. So he squelched and tried to suppress that pride in himself so much that it broke off and it created its own entity, which was an entity of darkness. And it became like basically his counterpart, his doppelganger. And it began actually like a war between the two of them for the planet's guidance. And so the fact that you said that you don't deal with light or dark energy, that's basically it, because Excelsior tried to be all light and wound up creating his own darkness by doing it.
Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
you create judgment.
Right.
A part of me is bad. Just like when with Soulisious, for me to have wealth or beauty was bad, but deep in my core, I wanted to be just as beautiful as those women that looked like Barbies.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have manifested them unless I had that capability. Are
Yeah.
you willing for me to go into even a darker arena with how powerful I've become?
Sure. We have time. So yeah, let's whatever you want to talk about. This is what this is what this this episode is all about. So whatever you feel comfortable talking about.
A lot of people are scared of the world. They're scared of other people. They're scared of the world. And this is a reflection of them actually being scared of their own power, them judging themselves or shaming their own darkness. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Shaming, a lot of people are scared if I got angry, I would be destroyed. But what we need to understand, as a God, you are a life giver, but you also are Kali. You are the destroyer.
Mm.
And when I found out my husband had cheated on me with one of my Barbie doll friends, at that time.
Yeah.
She and I had lots of history. We actually were married to Genghis Khan together a long time ago, and that's a whole other story. In fact, that book that you first saw me publish, that was about my story as being a concubine of Genghis Khan.
Oh, wow.
A lifetime that I remembered, and she was in that, and she actually had me murdered. And what's really cool is I didn't know what I was writing at the time. I just saw that this world god had I was a princess, and he took me as war booty and married me, and I fell in love with him for a little while because of his power, but then I realized he was dark, and so I fell in love with his son, his oldest son, who fell in love with me and tried to help me escape, and then I watched him kill his son and then later kill himself. But the female who betrayed me, her name was Felicity in that lifetime, and I actually put her in my book. But she named her oldest daughter Felicity in this lifetime, and we hadn't met at that point. So it was just cool correlation. But if you actually go back and study history, 8 years later after writing that book, I actually went and found out it was Genghis Khan because my mother said his name and every hair on my body stood up. And I went and researched him because I actually met him in this life again with her. And he ended up raping me in this life, but that's another story. But you can actually find out in history, nobody knows how Genghis Khan died. But this is what they said, which was really fascinated.
Mm-hmm.
They said they think it had to do with a princess that was taken for war booty, and his oldest son, who was good. It actually mentions his oldest son is good. Was trying to help her escape. You actually can find this in a book, like in history.
Yeah.
And his oldest son mysteriously dies 6 months before Genghis Khan, and nobody knows how. But I had seen it. I saw him kill his own son. And then out of guilt, I saw him kill himself. And nobody knows how he died. He mysteriously died 6 months later.
Wow.
Isn't that trippy?
It's very trippy.
I have physical proof reincarnation is actually real, because I published that book 8 years before I found out that information.
Wow.
But long story short, this female has been in my life ever since, and I cleared my karma with her. I became friends, but then she cheated on me with my husband, which was such a betrayal to me because I had been so good to her. But again, she was showing me that I was cheating myself, thinking I wasn't enough because I wasn't as pretty as her, right?
Yeah.
And so I end up finding out when I'm on a plane, and I got so angry that I actually started to shake the plane, and the plane started going way out of control. And I realized in that moment how powerful I was becoming, and that I had to choose to forgive no matter what. Mm-hmm. And so I chose to forgive. And as I chose to forgive, the clouds parted and cleared, and everything calmed down. But later, I text her, I says, you cheated on me with my husband, which at the time we were actually in an open marriage, but my husband, didn't tell me about her because he knew it would hurt me. Right. And so that's mostly why I was angry. It's not that they did it, it was that they did it behind my back. But then again, I was cheating myself. I was lying to myself by playing small at that time in my life. Mm-hmm. So, and as soon as I stopped playing small is when all his secrets came out. Mm. And so when this happened and I blocked her, I went through my process of forgiveness work and with her and him, and I finally cleared the karma for good. And then 2 days after I cleared the karma, I felt like re-adding her and letting her apologize to me, but I didn't. Mm-hmm. And I should have, because she was hit by a pig truck 2 days later.
Oh, wow. This
pig truck actually drove off a medium, went clear across to the other side. They don't even know how it happened, and hit her. And there was no way for her to escape.
Yeah.
And because I'm a medium, she actually came to me that night, and my husband, or the next night, and talked to us. And I was able to clear, and she asked for my forgiveness and all those kind of things. But it shows you that you get to a place in your God creation state where if somebody betrays you, the universe will take them out for you. It will fight your battles for you.
Yeah.
And that's scary for a lot of people to know how powerful they can become.
Yeah.
And that is the dark side of being a god. Mm-hmm. Really realizing that's how much power I have now, and how much the universe is now willing to protect me.
Wow. That's, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should definitely talk about something else. But but that is why humans are so scared of their power, because they are also the destroyer.
Yeah.
But I didn't kill her. I gave her back to the universe. I changed the situation, and I forgave. Mm-hmm. And that is why, as you go at people that are blaming everybody and they're not taking accountability for their lives, for you to grow and expand and to become a god, you have to always be willing to forgive and not take things personal.
Yeah.
Let things come, let them go, let it come, let it go. Shitty things are going to happen. When I was being cheated on, I went to this a sex addiction class with a bunch of women because my husband went through a phase where he left the LDS church, and obviously he's going to go through darkness. Everybody does. Now my husband is like my ultimate like lover of all things, because he's now in the light and he's honest with who he is. But he went through a dark phase, right? We all do.
Yeah.
But as I sat there and I'm sitting there and talking to these other women. They had left their husbands for looking at porn.
Hmm.
And here I had been cheated on a dozen times and still could forgive and love. And they're like having nervous breakdowns because their husband looked at porn. And I was like, whoa. And it was like a whole other level for me. And it
Yeah.
made me realize that this is a video game. And each time you level up, you get to be a bigger badass. But your monsters are going to get bigger every single time. But if you learn to play the game and stop taking it personal, you will become a god. And you will be able to manifest and create anything you desire. To the point that I've actually been invited to live in Costa Rica with a group of multimillionaires that are making a massive impact in this world.
That's amazing. That really is. So, wow. So we're coming around to the last parts of the interview. So I want to make sure that we get everything in here.
Yes.
So, we've definitely gone on an incredible journey with you. You've led us on a mind-blowing journey, and it's been a real privilege to go on that with you. You know, just to have that. But now we are looking to the future for everything, for yourself, for what you have in store for the world around you. You had mentioned a retreat with Soulisious. So now that we know what Soulisious is and what its mission is, what is the retreat that is coming up? What is that all about?
So I do retreats every single month. The way I've designed these is you come and you go through your own healing. Healers need healing. So I show you how to heal yourself. I give you all the tools to heal your relationships, your trauma, your anger, your emotions. I give you back a control of your life, show you why everything happens so it makes sense, and step you into your life purpose. But then I invite you back anytime you want, and every time you bring somebody, you actually make $1,000 so that you can actually make a full-time living investing in yourself. And as you come back and experience this, I actually start training you to be a facilitator and actually start healing other people, because I can't be doing this forever. In fact, I'm stepping into a master creator and an entertainer. I'm no longer a healer. I've already surpassed that because I've healed myself. So I want to give these tools to other people and share everything I know so that they can start healing the people in their own lives and healing themselves and start stepping into their life purpose. But I also designed this for people like you that have a life purpose but are starting your journey, because that the beginning phases of starting that journey is a financial you have to get your name out there before people start paying attention. But I want to support you doing this, and so that $1,000 referral fee can also be used for someone like you. The retreat, I've been told I should be pricing upwards to $6,000. I refuse to do that. I've spoken to Source, and the number he's given me is $3,500. And what that does is it covers the person's lodging, it covers their food, it covers all their healings, it covers the shamans, it covers everything they need. Plus, they get 8 weeks of integration coaching afterwards, and they get to have somebody who has daily accountability. So they're working out, because a lot of what I do is self-love consistency. I can sprinkle fairy dust on you all day long, but unless you're eating right, taking care of yourself, doing your meditation, affirmations, and starting to love yourself every single day, you're just going to go right back down your shame spiral. And so I have 8 weeks of follow-up and consistency with you, but then it also pays someone like you $1,000 referral fee. That way you can get your business up, you can get yourself launched. And when people come, I actually show them how to make their money back within a month. And I have credit card systems that I show them how to use if the money's tight for them, how to get the credit card, how to get it paid off a month, and start learning how to leverage money. Because $3,500 might be a lot to someone, but I just spent $25,000 on a business, like a business coach. I thought that was a lot, but then I went to the other coach. He's charging $120,000 to $160,000. Money to them is no big deal because they synapses their brain to be able to receive. I actually have a friend that I would love to bring on your show if you're open. Her name's Galena. She's been retired since the age of 33. She lives in Costa Rica, and she's a passive income specialist. And she teaches people how to make passive income. And people don't even know that's possible. But since I've met Galena, I've learned all these different ways of having money just come without me doing anything. Money gets to be easy. Life gets to be easy. Relationships get to be easy. But we have to make that synapse shift.
Yeah.
People are not always ready for what I have to offer right now. But if I take them to the beginning of my story and I walk them through my healing journey, they will be ready for it, right? Same thing with money. So I take them from a lower range that seems like a lot. $3,500 is a lot to invest for somebody on a lower range, right? But I need it to be enough that they show up and do their work.
Right.
Once I show them that they come and they get excited and they invite a few people, we get that paid off. Then I show them how to continuously put that investment back into themselves and grow themselves so they can be financially free. But they have to synapses to believe they can do it. And then we synapses them a little bigger and a little bigger, a little bigger until they're like me. I now have people, in the past, I charged $3,300 or $33 to work with me. Then my clients started paying me $80. Then they started paying me $120. They're automatically doing this.
Yeah.
They're paying me $200. Then they paid me $300. And then I started having clients offer me $10,000. And they wouldn't, I got one lady who was offended because I wouldn't charge her that much. Like people are getting offended because I'm not charging them more money. They says, why would I take you serious? Because you're not taking yourself
the value.
serious.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the value of the product. It's exactly what, what Tony was actually saying in the same episode that I was mentioning before. The fact that he himself, he doesn't charge cheap prices, but he adds like 10 times more value. And he gave a great line actually that really struck me, and it's something that I'm definitely holding on to use for my own business as an audiobook narrator, for a voiceover artist, for everything that I want to do for myself, for my family. The line that Tony said is, nothing is expensive if you add enough value. And that
absolutely
immediately got me. I was just like, that's right. If you don't show that you value yourself, then that means you're not taking yourself seriously, and that means that everyone else will not take you seriously. And so by charging the price that you charge, you're allowing yourself to continue on in the mission that you are on. So oh my God, this episode has just been absolutely mind-blowing. It's been everything I hoped it would be and more. And so I cannot thank you enough again for being here, and for being my friend, and for everything that it's absolutely so appreciated. So I want to share you with the rest of the world. Where can they find you?
So they can reach me on my Facebook, which is Natalie Bushnell. I would love if you would give them all of my information. I don't even care if they have my number, because I want to support you. If you guys hear this audio and you decide you want to do my boot camp, like I said, I will make it the greatest. Everybody who comes to my emotional healing retreats, it is mind-blowing. But not only, the truth is it's not about me. I want to help you become a creator. I want you to get confidence. And so I want to co-create with you afterwards and help you build your own business. And so you're really cheating yourself not investing in yourself. And if money's tight, let me know. Email me. My email is livelovebeinlove@gmail.com or soulicious.mb@gmail.com. He's going to have to write that in, because I think I spelled Soulisious a little differently because the other one was taken. But it's livelovebeinlove@gmail.com, because my other business is called Live, which is love is virtually everything. And so email me, let me know that George referred you, so I can bless him, so he can get his mission out and his word out and start stepping into his power. And because that's really what it's about, is us lifting each other up and co-creating. I've seen the universe, okay? It gets past God. We surpass God. God has brothers and sisters and friends and cousins and uncles and lovers, and every one of those is another universe and another infinity, and it never ends. But the reason why they got so powerful and big is because we're more powerful together. if we co-create together and we joint venture together and we support each other, we're going to be able, what if there's no such thing as time? What if we are the gods? What if we are that infinity? But this is the beginning stages of us learning to work together and co-create together and stop everybody doing their own thing and trying to survive. And we start co-creating and building each other up and create the infinite, create the heavens. What if we are the gods? And we're just getting to experience it at the very beginning of the story, just like what you're about, George.
Yeah. And it's very much like what you see like all around in all different films and television and everything. The big concept that they have right now is shared universe. Yes. That's basically what we are currently living in right now, and that is something that we can aspire to make better together. And so that is, I can't think of a better note to go out on for this episode. Again, Natalie, thank you so much for being here. I hope that everyone who has heard this is feeling as inspired as I am and ready to meet life with a smile and ready to go out and realize your own potential. That's what this show has always strived to be about, and that is right here. That is this is every bit of it right here in this episode. So I hope all of you have been able to take as much out of this episode as I have. And for Natalie Bushnell, this is George Sirois saying to all of you, ever upward, and we'll see you next week.